Well, you know who won't be in the jungle anytime soon? Bill Belichick. Look, I know a lot of people kind of had that as a pipe dream if Zach Taylor were to lose his job this offseason, and he's not going to. But if he did, that maybe Bill Belichick could step in, right? Why wouldn't he want to? You've got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, but he ends up coaching at North Carolina. How about that? I am sorry. I know some people thought that would be a thing. I also once thought before my brain fully developed that I could have a pet monkey as an adult, but that's not how life works. You were in the jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. Thank you for hanging out. I did dress like Bill Belichick today. I got the sleeveless hoodie on. I've got the toque, the toboggan, the beanie, whatever you want to call it on. If you're watching on YouTube, you can, of course, see all of that. I look like I lived in a cave for the last month. That's the vibe we're going with today here on In the Jungle. Thank you for tuning in and hanging out as the Cincinnati Bengals get ready to go to Tennessee, where they'll take on the Tennessee Titans. Got a lot to get to today. Actually, we really don't. But we have some things to get to today. Not a lot to get to, but some items indeed. We'll talk about Jamar Chase's historic season, and I've got a few points I want to make on that. We'll look ahead at what the Bengals need to happen this weekend. The Thursday night game has no impact on them, but we'll look ahead. They've got some games they got to keep an eye on. But I want to start with something. I want to go back a couple weeks. I want to go back to after that miserable game against Pittsburgh, where Russell Wilson looked like Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were meshed into one in their primes and came to Cincinnati to put a whipping on the Bengals. Joe Burrow said after the game, he said, we're probably out of the playoffs, but we're going to learn a lot. We're going to learn a lot about our guys over the next 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was. This is a week where I really think you have an opportunity to learn a lot. Last week, you got to go on the road in Dallas. Playing in primetime is never easy. Playing against a team you really only see once every 4 years or so is never easy. Against a quarterback you don't have a ton on because Cooper Rush kind of plays sparingly and he's played with some different guys, blah, blah, blah. This is a little different. This is a system. This is a coach. And this is a city and town you're familiar with. Brian Callahan left the Bengals last offseason to take the head coaching job in Tennessee. You know him well. You know what he likes to do. They're 3-10. Things aren't going well. They have arguably the worst starting quarterback in Will Levis, who will be starting for them on Sunday. Last week at home, Brian Callahan's 3-10 Tennessee Titans scored 6 points at home against the dreadful Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a week where if Joe Burrow and this coaching staff want to learn a lot, they can learn a lot because this is a week where the Bengals, they're kind of in the opposite boat. They have to win out to even have a shot at the playoffs. They have to win out to have a shot at the playoffs. They have to win out and get help. This is a week where you should learn a lot because this is a week where if you don't come out and bury a team like this, who are you? And if you don't do it, who are the guys who are not making sure that happens? Because this week we learn who's going all out, who is hanging on to that sliver of a 3 or 4% chance the Bengals have at making the playoffs, and who's already looking at vacation plans for January. We're going to learn this week, I think, because this is a team that the Bengals should absolutely knock their teeth down their throats. So we got to figure out this week who's going all out, who should still be around in 2025, and who's maybe ready to, go play for the Raiders next year. Who's ready? Who is going to go out there and knock them flat on their butts in Nashville? We're going to learn this week. Joe Burrow said he wanted to learn a lot. This is the week you learn a lot. The Tennessee Titans are averaging 17.5 points per game, third worst in the NFL. Pretty bad. Only the Giants and Patriots are worse. 17.5 points per game. We know how good the Bengals are on offense. Shouldn't be an issue outscoring them. That shouldn't be an issue. The issue is, okay, defense, you looked a little bit better last week in Dallas. Do you step up to the challenge now? Do you say, hey, this is a team we should be able to pummel, we pummel, or do they do what they've been doing all season and once again play to the level of their opponent? We're going to find out this week. This is a week, there's a lot of weeks this year. This has been a tough schedule for the Bengals. You look at their 8 losses, all of them but one had really, really good quarterbacks playing in them. And even if they weren't good quarterbacks or they were, maybe that second or third tier, they were playing at an extremely high level. They caught both Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts as they were in MVP talks. Both have cooled off a little since. But they caught those guys in. Russell Wilson had the best game of his career. Now, some of that, of course, is the Bengals defense being bad. But this is not that. This is Will Levis. This is a guy I feel bad for because he's been a meme, and every week on Twitter, people are saying, hey, here's the latest idiotic Will Levis play. Will, I feel for you. I think you're going to have a long career in the NFL. You're the prototype pocket passer, but as a backup. Okay? So this is a week where the Bengals are going to show us, we know kind of who they are, but we're going to see, are they still fighting? Are these guys who still want to hang on and try to make the playoffs, or are they good? Because last week in Dallas, kind of ticky-tacky. Tackling still wasn't great. There were times when assignments were still clearly missed. We're going to learn a lot this week. It's a confidence builder. I said that after the bye. You have got to find a way to get some of these guys, especially the young guys, confidence going into the end of the season. You don't want them sitting around all offseason saying, maybe I don't belong in this league. This is a type of week. The Titans, I wrote it down here, they've allowed 45 sacks this year. Only the Browns and Bears are worse in those categories. Only two teams in Cleveland and Chicago, notorious dumpsters, have allowed more sacks than the Titans this year. This is a confidence builder. You got Myles Murphy, you got Joseph Osai, you got Chris Jenkins, you got McKinley Jackson, Jackson McKinley. McKinley Jackson is what it is. Those are two last names, though, so I'm going to get him confused for as long as he's in Cincinnati. You've got those guys. This is a week. You build the confidence. You get them saying, hey, I belong. Worst case scenario, you get them feeling good heading into 2025. Best case scenario, you get them hot down the stretch of 2024. I know it's the Titans. I know they're 3-10. I know mathematically the Bengals are all but out of it. But there are a lot of things this week that I think the Bengals can build on, whether it's for the end of this year or the beginning of next year. This is a great opportunity. Tennessee and Cleveland, pummel them both these next 2 weeks. Get a little confidence going. Finish the season strong. It's a win-win. Either you get them ready for 2025 or you have a shot down the stretch here at 2024. We'll pay attention, we'll talk about that in a second. We will pay attention. That doesn't belong there. I don't know why I wrote that. I just got bullet points. So full clarity here. I've got bullet points of things I want to talk about. I read them as I go. I don't actually read them. I just have bullet points and I say, hey, there's that. I wanted to talk about that. Let's talk about it. I do write some stats down, but I had there, pay attention to who's going all out and who isn't. Because the Bengals can steamroll this team. And like who does go all out and who doesn't will answer that question Joe Burrow had a few weeks ago. This is not my segment. This is Joe Burrow's segment. He's the one who said we're going to learn a lot. This is a team you should be able to take out behind the woodshed and put it on. Learn a lot this week. Jamar Chase, let's talk about him, the best receiver in the National Football League. He has 15 receiving touchdowns on the season. Of course, he had 2 on Monday night when he absolutely picked apart that Dallas defense. So the NFL record for touchdowns in a season, this is something I wrote down, is 23. Randy Moss did it on that incredible 2007 Patriots team, 23 touchdowns. So if Jamar Chase can score 4 touchdowns in these last 4 games, which we all know he can do, if he does score 4 touchdowns in these last 4 games, he'll have 19 on the season. That would stand alone as the third most in an NFL regular season. Jerry Rice had 22 in 1987. Randy Moss, of course, I just said had 23 in 2007. If Jamar can get 19, that would be number 3. There's a handful of guys who have 18. No one's ever done 19. 23, 22, that's a stretch. 19 or 20, it can be done. And I think it's important that these things do get done. Jamar also has 1,319 receiving yards. That leads the league. If he can average 100 yards per game these last 4, he will become one of only 14 receivers in NFL history to have 1,700 yards in a single season. And with 20 more catches, 5 a game, he would break TJ Houshmandzadeh's record for most receptions in a single season in Bengals franchise history. Why am I telling you this? I don't sit here and read stats typically. I'm telling you this for 2 reasons. One, I do love stats, and I think it's awesome that he could have the 3rd most receiving touchdowns in a single season in NFL history while still on a rookie contract. Incredible. But two things I want to point out here. One, Zach Taylor and this coaching staff should absolutely make sure he gets all of these. They're all doable. 4 touchdowns in 4 games, of course they're doable. He has 3 sometimes. He had 2 last week. And it's not like he's playing the top-tier defenses anymore. Let him get all of these. He had a rough offseason last year, right? He handled it incredibly well. But Jamar Chase didn't get along great with the front office. I mean, they weren't on bad terms. I think as far as contract disputes go, that was as cordial as they get. But if you're Zach Taylor and you're this coaching staff and Joe Burrow, you make sure Jamar Chase gets every single one of these to let him know, hey, I know you didn't get paid last offseason. You're going to this offseason, but we want to make sure you know that we're on your side. It would be easy for people to say, cool him off. You don't have to pay him even more. No, he's already going to get paid. We're past that point. The Bengals send a message to everyone saying, hey, we're going to take care of our guys. If you come out here and ball out, we're going to make sure we put you in the best position to ball out the mostest as possible. That's the message they would send to Jamar. And everyone else, we're going to put you in position to be at your best. I think it's important after the offseason, which, hey, we all forgot about already, to make sure they know they're going to take care of them. And by the way, this is another feather in the cap of the team that wants to keep Zach Taylor around, of which I think I am a part. Zach Taylor, boy, would it have been easy. I know the results on the field haven't been great, but after the offseason, T. Higgins gets tagged, doesn't get signed. Jamar Chase doesn't get the contract. Some people felt Joe Mixon shouldn't have been traded or released. I feel strongly the opposite. Chase Brown's been better than him, even though some people who only watch highlights and fantasy football don't quite seem to understand that. But this is another feather in the cap for Zach Taylor if he does this. And this is another feather in the cap, the fact that things are going as well in that locker room as they are, despite what's happened over the last 4 or 5 months. Second thing I want to point out when we're talking about Jamar, as a Bengals fan, which I am, and which you probably are too, appreciate this right now. Appreciate the fact that Jamar is on track, not just to be like we've had great receivers in Cincinnati. Chad Johnson, A.J. Green, Isaac Curtis. I don't remember. He was before my time. Ring of Honor guy. Awesome. Do you know how incredible it is to have Ocho and A.J. Green and Jamar Chase back to back to back? Appreciate this as a Bengals fan. Right now, the Bengals have a guy in Jamar Chase who is on track to be in that Terrell Owens, Randy Moss conversation, that Jerry Rice conversation, those type of guys. He's on track to be one of those guys. He's on track to be in the discussion for the Mount Rushmore of NFL receivers. Appreciate it, man, because it goes by quick. We know how quickly things fell off with AJ once he started getting hurt. Chad Johnson kind of went from superstar to, hey, I'm interested in being a bit of a celebrity more than I am a football player. Things fell off quickly. Not saying any of these things will happen with Jamar. Hope to God they don't, because like I said, he is on pace to be not just a Hall of Famer, but one of the Mount Rushmores, one of the best to ever run a route in the NFL. Appreciate it. Have fun with it. I know it sucks that they're 5-8 and probably out of the playoffs, but he's on pace to have one of the best 10, 15 receiving seasons ever. Enjoy it. Soak it up. Okay, going to be a shorter episode today. We're only 14 minutes in. That's fine. You guys have things to do, as do I. Just the rooting guide. We don't need to worry about too much this week. If you listened last week, I kind of I should have did a better job. I was absolutely worn out going from Dallas and back, but I should have did a better job of breaking down what the Bengals need to happen to get into the playoffs. So and I'll take this, Caleb Noe of WCPO in Cincinnati, who I've never met. He and I did not cross paths when I worked down there, but he did a great job on Twitter of looking up what it is they need to do, the Bengals need to do and need to have happen to make the playoffs. If you want to check him out, he's at Caleb Noe. I think it's Noe TV on Twitter. But he has a great breakdown here. I retweeted it. It's on my timeline at Matt Edwards if you want to check it out. But it's really pretty simple. So first and foremost, the Bengals need to win out. The Bengals cannot lose again. And, well, that's not true. But they need to win out. There's still a way where they can go 3-1 and get in. But that would include, I believe, the Colts and Dolphins finishing 1-3 and the Broncos going 0-4. So that's not going to happen. But here's the realistic path. The Bengals win out, which we know they can do. They can beat the Titans, obviously. They can beat the Browns, obviously. And then their last two, Pittsburgh at the end is going to depend so much on whether or not Pittsburgh's playing for anything. And then that Broncos game is obviously the big one. Broncos in Week 17. But here's how it goes. Bengals win out. We know they can do that. Any team can do that. And then Denver gets 3 losses. Denver gets 3 losses. The Colts lose twice, and the Dolphins lose twice. Not easy by any means. Not likely by any means. But that's the path. Broncos have a tough schedule. They play the Colts this weekend. You want to root for the Broncos this weekend because the Colts' end of season is a cakewalk. Dolphins, not so much. I think it's very realistic the Dolphins lose 2. Broncos losing 3 is going to be tough. You want the Broncos to win this weekend against the Colts and then go 0-3. And it's possible because they have the Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs. Again, a lot of that depends on what the Chiefs have to play for in Week 18. But I don't want to get too in the weeds here. Caleb did an awesome job. He works at WCPO. I believe he's a sports director there. He laid it out up on the smart board, which I used to have when I worked in TV. But now I sit here and I don't have all the graphics and fun stuff that costs thousands and thousands of dollars. So you put it out there on Twitter. So that's what it is. Bengals win out. Denver loses 3 times. Colts and Dolphins both lose twice as we come down this final 4-game stretch. And again, I think that we want the Broncos to beat the Colts this weekend and then hope they lose 3 straight. But either way, no matter how that game goes, the Bengals, as long as they win in Tennessee, all these facts will remain the same. I did want to mention just Tyler Boyd this year. So this is his 9th year in the NFL, obviously his first 8 with the Cincinnati Bengals. So this season, TB, former second-round pick, turned out to be a damn good one too. He's got just 33 catches for 317 yards and no touchdowns. It's his 9th year in the NFL. He's never had a season in which he did not catch a touchdown. Hope he gets one on Sunday. If anyone gets one, I hope it's him. And yeah, it just goes to show me. I talk about, grass isn't always greener. I don't think Tyler Boyd necessarily wanted to leave, but the Bengals, you're going to see guys like that. And I don't know if they have any guys you'd put in that range right now, but as the Bengals pay more and more big contracts, you're going to see more and more situations like this. I'd be curious. I mean, Tyler Boyd last season clearly kind of went down a level. Year 8 in the NFL, of course that was going to happen. But I'd be curious if the Bengals bring him back on a minimum contract next year if he wants to. I just don't know. He dropped the game-winning touchdown last year against the Texans. He just had some uncharacteristic things. I mean, again, a decade in the NFL. Life is catching up to him. But we like Tyler Boyd in Cincinnati. He was an excellent Bengal. So kind of you feel for him going into this garbage situation that he's in now in Tennessee. So hopefully he can catch on with a contender next year. But yeah, this year, just 317 yards, no touchdowns. Maybe you'll get one on Sunday and do a gritty for Jamar. Bengals are just 5.5-point favorites on Sunday. Weird, because they were 6-point favorites in Dallas. That feels like a bait line to me, man. That feels too easy. That makes me think that the Titans are going to keep this thing closer than they should. Only 5 teams, by the way, including the Bengals, are giving up more points per game than Tennessee. So the Titans are allowing 26.3 points per game. The Bengals allowing 27.7 points per game. How disgusting is that? But yeah, both these teams in the bottom 6 as far as giving up points goes. So, might see a bit of a shootout. We'll see. I don't think we will. I'm going to pick the Bengals to win 27-14. I don't think we'll see a shootout. I think that Bengals number is skewed. Again, they've played like all the good offenses. Now, their defense still stinks, don't get me wrong, but they've also not got the breaks you want to get. So I like the Bengals 27-14. We'll see what happens. I don't care how it happens. The Bengals have to win. And we need to see, as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is a week where you want to see them go out, impose their will, and just beat up on what is undoubtedly a much lesser team. Simple as that. So hopefully not a heart attack-inducing game like we seemingly have every Sunday with this team, but I'm not going to hold my breath for that. I'm going to pick them to win 27-14. It'll probably end up being 31-30 with a last-second field goal from 78 yards by Cade York that he should have no business making. Obviously, it won't really be that long, but you get the point. You know what this team's done to us all season. You know that you're not going to be able to breathe toward the end of it. Part of being a Bengals fan in 2024. All right, I'll have another episode out on Monday. Is that right? Yeah, Monday. So weeks all thrown off here. Days are all thrown off. But it's been fun. Had a good week. Had a fun week. It's nice to be able to at least talk about still being in the playoffs as we inch toward the holidays. And yeah, season's a disappointment, but let's Let's hang on a little bit here, right? That's the point of sports. They're fun. So this podcast is called In the Jungle. My name is Matt Edwards. If you've liked it, give it a subscribe on the old YouTube page. Tell a friend about it. It's also available on Apple and Spotify as just a podcast if you want to see my stupid face, or if you're riding in the car or something. Don't watch YouTube in the car. Not smart. So I appreciate you tuning again in. We'll do it again on Monday. Enjoy your holiday parties this weekend, and we'll see you then.